Aloha Kaku. Gabe, nice to
Aloha.
see you.
Thank you for
First of all,
having me.
you're welcome. First of all, I just want to say thank you for running for office. I know that it takes dogged determination, especially to run against someone as with a dynasty, as we've seen with the Hokamas. And you have been at it for, I believe, 2 election cycles now. You've been running, and that takes an extraordinary amount of dedication to do that. And we in the Pono Network appreciate your dedication to do that. So my first question to you is, if you make it to the council, you have a child who's in school.
Yes.
And how are you going to be able to handle your home life if you make it to the council? Because that's a sometimes 60-hour-a-week job on Maui. How are you going to handle that?
Well, actually, my daughter right now is a junior at Lahaina Luna.
Okay.
So I will be spending much of my time in Maui, but I will luckily be able to see her when she's not working. And during this time of COVID, I kind of got, since you asked me, there's a little bit of announcement. My daughter is now going to be my campaign manager. So I'm really excited for that, to have, so, she's a junior in high school. So give her something, constructive to do. And she's all aboard. So I'm really excited to have my daughter help me out with this campaign. So it's going to be, win, lose, or draw, it's going to be great for our family.
I appreciate that. And congratulations on that side. So we're living in a time right now of extraordinary change. The pandemic is touching every single person's life on the planet. Here on Maui especially, we're looking at extraordinary changes. We've had over 40% of our load of people on the island at one point were tourists, and that's going to go away. And I just wanted to know, what is it that you're going to be bringing to the table that'll be different and dynamic? Because we're in real time. You've got a baby, I've got children.
Right.
What is it that you're going to bring to the table that for all of Maui County that's going to be different, number one, than what's already been there? And what are your passions to bring? And you've got about maybe 2 minutes to go through that, if you could.
Well, before in my past elections, I was also working as an invasive species technician, right? So you might have known a lot of my work done with invasive species and protecting our islands from that. But presently, I'm now an organic farmer. And I tell you, if you ever want to open up your eyes on a great way to pivot our economy, it's farming. And I know you guys touched on it a little bit, but when we import 90% of our food, and we're growing for not our base population, I think it's a great opportunity. We can look at this as a terrible tragedy, which it is, but I also think it's an opportunity to use our isolation is more of a strength and say, hey, we can kind of slow down on the amount of flow of tourism and kind of grow things organically here. And all of a sudden, instead of importing 90% of our food, we have jobs created that help our economy here on island. The money swirls on the island, it stays on island instead of I get that tourism is a huge part of our economy, but where does that money go? It leaves the islands. It goes to mainland hotel companies. Four Seasons is a Canadian company, for example. So that money goes to Canada. So I think that this is an opportunity for us to kind of pivot our economy to be more of an agricultural base, and instead of just this massive thing we have now called tourism.
Okay, I appreciate that. There's been talk among people here on Maui about the possibility of starting a Maui County Department of Agriculture so that we actually don't have to go through the vacuous red tape of the state.
That's right.
Could you give me about 30 seconds or 45 seconds on your thoughts on that?
I certainly agree with Councilmember Chainson and the other council members who are, making this initiative happen. And when I'm elected, I will be fully supporting of a local agricultural department by the county. I think who else knows better but local farmers what grows in our soil, what grows in climates. We're not a big island, and we're not Kauai, where we have very different biomes and different. Again, in my invasive species background shows that, like LANAI, we don't have little fire ants, and we want to keep it that way. So we can, a Department of Ag would really be, I think, one of my strengths if I got into there and help with the decision making for that, because I'm both, I'm doing a lot of the whole cogs and the wheels of how to make this thing work, the agricultural side of it.
I appreciate that. We're looking at one of the major problems that we've had on the council is the small-handed backbiting, three-tier deep replacement of council chairs, in the middle of terms. Just all this nasty backbiting, small thoughts, small vision. And when we're running, first of all, a $900 million economy, and we're looking at 180,000 people on a set of islands, there just isn't room for that stuff. There isn't. There has to be a sense of dignity and ways of working outside of the standard politic. And I know this is a bit leading, and I apologize for that, but you speak for a minute or so on your thoughts about this type, about what you would see as a vision of government and stability in government.
Certainly. Now, it's a council, I'm a one voice of a 9-member council, okay? So, the old expression is in politics is you're herding cats, right? It's really hard to get everybody to agree on something, but I'm okay with that. That's called democracy. Democracy can be messy. It's okay. I'm not a snowflake. I can disagree with someone and I can agree with someone. And that's the professionalism you have to show. Like, I don't mind if my fellow council members disagree with me on it, but prove your case. I'll be up there with the microphone and I'll prove my case, and let the better debater win, and let the better policy, win through votes. I don't take it personal when someone doesn't agree with one of my policies. I mean, that's part of it. Like, come on, let's have this debate with the people in mind, the greater good of our county and our islands. Keep that in mind. And then, all this backbiting, that's Manini stuff. That's water off the back as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, well, I really appreciate that. As you move into the county, one of the things, what do you feel about the county manager? We finally got that on the ballot. What are your thoughts about the county manager in about 30 to 45 seconds?
Yeah, I'm for a county manager. The idea is running a county is different than the politics side of it, right? The politics side is a totally different beast. Sometimes you're really good in front of the camera, but you're a policy wonk, and sometimes you're not good in front of the camera. The politicians can get the vote and get people behind them, but a manager might just be more of a bookworm kind of guy or kind of person. So that is okay. Well, that's what you want. You want in the county manager to be a good manager. They might not have the outgoingness that a voter wants in their politician, but I'm okay with that. And then the other side is it does take the politics of it. And let's just, get somebody who's a professional at it, who knows the ins and outs, and they just have to follow the hierarchy of all that's we set up as a council, and as well as the executive branch. So I've always been a big fan of having a county manager. Other counties do it, and it isn't the end of the world. And I think sometimes people will say, "Oh, that sounds scary. You're taking away the power of the mayor." But you can go through 1,000,001 districts and 1,000,001 communities in our states and our nation that do it, and it's not the end of the world.
Okay, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to turn it over to Sylvia from here.
Aloha, Gabe. Good to see you again.
Yes, good seeing you.
Morning. Yeah. So it's good to see you back. And what have you learned since campaigning back in 2018, and how have you evolved since then?
Certainly. I took my campaign plan and I threw it in the paper shredder, because this is all COVID has come in, and no matter how many times I was planning to do all these fundraisers and these door-to-door. I'm a door-to-door guy. I don't know if your viewers know this, but I walk 7 miles a day when I would campaign. I walked every district in the county in 2018. Now I can't do that, and so my plans have shifted. What I've learned is you always start backwards from your campaign. So that means you start from the election day back and make your plan accordingly. And that's worked for me. I think right now, of course, yeah, I have to do a lot of social media. I'm going to do some other ads that are going to reach people that I can't reach because I can't go door to door, and I have to do it on a shoestring budget. Challenge accepted. I know it isn't easy, but that if you're passionate about running for your county council, and if you're passionate about your community, I'm passionate about my family and their future. So yeah, I do whatever it takes. That's the way I look at it.
Thank you for that. I don't know if you were one of the ones who participated in the Kualoa Academy to get your training. Yes, you did. So can you describe how that has prepared you and what other types of things you're doing to prepare for office?
Sure. The Kualoa Academy was one of the pinnacles in my lifetime as far as a learning experience. You can go and watch a YouTube video on how to run a campaign, but there's nothing that beats local politics and what Gary Hooser taught me was a big deal. Was, you know, look them in the eye, shake their hand, and go door to door. I can't say it enough. Go. I have people who don't agree with me. They're way different than me in politics, but I knocked on their door and I listened to them and I heard what they had to say, and they told me they're going to vote for me. And then I went to there again. I did a double tap. I went to their house again, and they voted for me. So that's the thing, is you can, if you have a personal connection, that is such a huge part in listening to what the people want out of their politicians. You know, some guys, I'll be honest, they ripped up my paper and said, get off my lawn. But that's 1 out of 99. You know, most of the time it was great experience. I got to listen to real people, real stories, and not just this spin room all the time that we get. So, you know, just that was a huge part. And Kualoa Academy really directed me in that way. To go back to your original question, Kualoa Academy was, how do you do a grassroots campaign? How do you do it without the corporate interest, the thumb on your neck, and saying the things that the corporate interest wants you to do, or you know, coding in like a small business that actually means big business, or you know, all these little nuances. I'm talking about a grassroots campaign, and that's what really matters to people in this county, in my opinion.
Thank you, Gabe.
Do you want me to go next, Sylvia?
Sylvia?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Okay, so Sylvia, I'll go next. Hi, Gabe.
Hey, aloha. How are you doing?
My question has to do with this lifeblood of the islands, and what would you support, or would you support the county asserting eminent domain over the EMI system in order to administer the public trust water resources for the food security necessary for our community?
So it's, of course, you know, I mean, it's a complicated issue in many ways, but I want to just say that water has always, it's in our constitution, our state constitution, that water is in the public trust doctrine. That means the public owns it, okay? So as far as the county owning or taking over private water companies, I'm all for that, because that public utilities, I mean, I know I was listening to some of your questions, I was reading some of your website material, but it's all going to be a theme for me that public utilities should be in the hands of the public, whether it be your electric company, whether it be your water company. You know, that is a big thing that we have gotten away from across the nation. You know, I'll give you a real quick example. Kualoa Hospital was once a public hospital. You know, now it's a private hospital. You know, we can go down a long list of many things that have turned from public to private hands just in the name of dollars and profits, and that's humbug. That's not my style. I'm always going to support the idea of water rights being in the hand of the public. Now, to be specific now, I want to tell you that I do believe that the county should own the water rights, but make sure that the Hawaiians don't have a claim to it. If Hawaiians have a claim to that land, then let's work on that first, because I don't want to have all of a sudden we're fighting with people that we agree with. You know, I think the Hawaiians should get, you know, understand that if that's their claim to land, then that's their claim. But if it's not, then let's have the county own the water. Yeah.
Great, thank you for that. And then, as you mentioned, along the same line is this whole issue of the electric with MECO making it one of the highest rates of all the counties in the United States, as compared to Kauai, which is one of the lowest. And again, the difference is that we are privately owned here, and Kauai is publicly owned.
That's right.
So if you can comment a little bit further around this whole electricity generation and distribution.
The idea is baked in the word itself, public utilities. It should be in the hands of the public. And I said that with the Maui News when Larry Ellison tried to buy our little electric grid over here. I don't believe billionaires should own our electric grid, and I believe the public should. Now, that's disagreeing with some of my opponents or other council members or whatever. That's okay. We can have that disagreement. I don't mind. But yeah, the idea that public utilities should be hands in the public. It's just that simple for me. And you can look at Kauai. I mean, it's the devil. It's just right there in black and white. They pay little, we pay a lot. I wonder why. Is it corporate interest? Maybe.
Thank you for that, Gabe.
Yep.
And Bruce, you were next, I believe.
Yes. Aloha, Gabe.
Hey, aloha, Bruce.
So the condition of our economy right now is kind of the top subject matter for people who are feeling it, with a 30% plus unemployment rate, especially in a tourist island. What would be your plans, ideas on how you would, work within the county council, within the limitations of what we have here, in order to kickstart the economy and help the people who've been affected?
Sure. So before COVID, you might have remembered AOC and other national politicians getting a lot of press about a Green New Deal. I am a firm believer in the idea of a Green New Deal on a local level, on a county level. Specifically, it's a great job creator if we start making more green jobs. It's just that simple. You keep the money local, and you pivot again, so to make a lot of the jobs greener. I'll give you a specific example because I know people like that. The building codes are within the county's purview, right? So why not have the county council discuss how do we make our building codes, how do we make our buildings more energy efficient? Energy efficiency is a great way to keep our islands greener and reduce fossil fuel emissions. How do we make our public transportation system more greener? The idea of electric car stations the county could put in. That's job creating, and that's also creating a greener economy. And as well as the last thing I want to say is I'm a big fan of buses, transportation. I take the bus all the time. I love the Maui bus. It's a kind of a hassle to be on an hour schedule, especially during busy times when we're going to work. Well, can we have that discussion in the county council to make buses maybe more faster, maybe more energy efficient? The electric buses are starting out. Why not just have a fleet of electric buses that run more? It keeps the traffic down, and it creates jobs, and everybody has a greener economy. That's really part of that whole Green New Deal. Is let's make a deal with the public. We're going to use a little bit of your tax money and put it towards greener energy and greener solutions. That's a big point of why I think I'd like to work on that part of the economy.
Thank you. And what would be your pet projects? What would you really, if you were elected, where would you put your energy? Because obviously you can't do everything, but what would you want to see your most effectiveness and your primary things you want to see happen?
Well, I'm a single dad. I'm a working class guy. And I think specifically things that affect the working folk, a lot of times people who talk to me when I go door to door, they're like, there's potholes on Kihei Road. There's terrible parking over here. Those are the kinds of things that not as exciting as affordable housing or, a Green New Deal, but those need to be done. And I think they don't need to wait. It doesn't have to have this huge discussion. Fix the potholes. I mean, come on, this is not like rocket science. So if people see that there's an immediate improvement in their lives, in their communities, if all of a sudden you have sidewalks, all of a sudden you're walking town, then they say, hey, those folks in the county council, they're doing stuff for me. My tax dollars at work. You want to see that fast response to when you get in, because if you're just going to get in and sit on your laurels like we've had countless politicians do, then you don't deserve to get another round. So that's why I'm going to try to get in, hit the ground running. I've worked with council members in the past to find out what are the nuts and bolts, what are the policies that they want done. I'll give you a real specific example for LANAI is we need a skate park, we need an agricultural park, and we need affordable housing. Now that could happen in almost every district needs those things, you know, agricultural parks, parks for your kids, and then affordable housing. Those are really specific examples.
Thank you, Gabe. And with that, I'll pass it.
Okay, I think it's my turn again.
Oh,
So Gabe, one of the things that's happened, yeah, am I correct? Oh, Daniel?
Yep.
Did I move you out? I'm sorry, it's these 3-hour sessions. They get mind-numbing after all. My apologies. My apologies. Okay, go ahead.
Aloha, Gabe. Aloha, man.
Aloha, Daniel.
I definitely honor your perseverance. It's good to see you running again. I feel your virtues as a dad and a working class guy. I'm going to start off with this question here.
Sure.
So, as a public representative, it is a duty to face the truth and act righteously. These islands reflect the lowest voter turnout in the United States. On May 15th, 2019, Dr. David Kianusai gave a presentation to the Maui County Council, evidencing the illegal overthrow of Queen Liliuokalani in 1893 and showing clear violation of domestic and international law with the ongoing illegal United States military occupation of the Kingdom of the Hawaiian Islands. As a candidate for public representation, how do you rectify handling the truth of Dr. Sai's presentation, as well as the works of Keamoku Kapu, Henry Noah, Amelia Gora, Pompey Kanahele, Leon Su, Dr. Desaias, Madame Ruth Polame, the Ko Hawaii Pai'aina office in Hilo, etc.? How do you rectify the compliance of the law in restoration of occupied lands?
That is a fascinating question, and I don't want to gloss over it lightly. It's a very profound question, and I think what it takes is true change takes a people's movement, and that is really important in the sovereignty movement, and they're well on their way to having a people's movement. You want me to sign up? I will sign up for a people's movement. That is really important. I respect the history of the Hawaiians and the Hawaiian people, and I do not doubt Dr. Sai's or any of the people who are working on that. I will back them 100%. I support it, but I think we need a people's movement to do that. You know, I'm Okinawan and I'm Puerto Rican, and I know Okinawa as well as Puerto Rico have both suffered under imperialism, and it takes generations, but you can go across every people's movement, you know, the labor movement of the 60s, the Hawaiian Renaissance of the 70s in our state. Those have always been grassroots. They've always been people's movements, and I support that 100%.
Gotcha, thanks. And did you get a chance to watch all of that presentation that
yes,
I was
when
able
you went to the UN?
The one in the county council, the one in Maui County Council.
Okay, yeah, the one he presented at the county council. Yeah, I did watch this. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And when it comes to the people's movement, what can you tell us regarding the county council and having true transparency?
Yeah. So I don't want to have it so that the council members back away. In fact, I think we ought to move forward. You know, I'll give you another example. Jennifer Ruggles. That's strength right there. You know, to stand strong, and I will stand strong with them. When they want, you know, what a council member gets is something called the bully pulpit. You know, people want to hear what we have a say on. They want to hear our opinions on things, and you can use that bully pulpit to kind of move the needle, to kind of have these discussions on things that Dr. Sai has been working on, and you know, many others, you know, like you mentioned. But I think that is by using the bully pulpit, by listening and speaking what a lot of people are talking about. I think that it can be done. You know, it's not meant to, like, I don't want to say that, oh, that's a federal thing. That's, you know, it's out of our hands. Local governments affect Hawaiians living today. We can do a better job. That's just plain and simple.
Gotcha. All right, mahalo, Gabe. I'm going to pass on the question to the next.
Okay.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Thanks, Gabe. Yeah, we're everything that's been done in the state has a reason. The way that the county was set up in the beginning, where you had hotels in one area and there isn't going to be things happening other places. Back in the 50s and 60s, they had a reason for that. But this is a completely different time now. What is it that you would do that would bring Maui into the 21st century? What is it that your ideas, we put some kind of peripheral ideas out, but do you have anything that are just like really points that you would bring in as one of 9, but still your vibrancy that you bring to the council that would be your own?
I guess it would be kind of my background, you know, whatever long path it took me to get here I am. My history has made me, right? You know, I'm a single dad. I grew up on the mainland and I traveled a lot. And in my 20s, I went to Kent State University. And then I came here, and I've always been the kind of guy who questions power structures. And I'm going to do that as a county council member. Is always power that is concentrated always needs to be questioned. So I'll question my council members, and I'll question, you know, people in the government just as any corporate power structure that exists. You always got to question them and make sure that they're legitimate, because illegitimate power is not what we want. We want legitimate power.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Is there anything in the county charter that you would see places for change?
Well, the idea of term limits, right? When you need to change that just by amending the charter. So, and you could amend that with just one word, you know, consecutively. You know, so yeah, that's a big one.
What do you believe is what are your thoughts about district voting utilizing perhaps the state map versus
right.
The 9 area map that we have now?
Yeah, I like the state map. You know, it's already set up like that. You know, the state is already set up like that, so we don't have to redraw or any kind of, you know, gerrymandering or whatever they want to call it. But you just simply follow the state's setup, and we could do that. I think that the way we have it now just shows that the city centers decide, right? So that's specifically why Wailuku Kahului decides, right? On LANAI, we only have 500 voters in the last election, whereas in Wailuku, we had 18,000. So who decides, right? The big city centers. So I think the way the state sets it up, it makes it a little bit more fair, because it's not just your major city centers that are deciding your elections.
Okay, could you speak to that a little bit more to kind of explain to people what that really means? It's you know, land versus the populations are equal, but the land is larger or different.
Well, it's based off a one person, one vote, right? So you could say the way our state is, it's all of Molokai, it's all of LANAI, and it's all of Haiku, and that equals a district, right? That's how our district is. And then Wailuku would be one district, but you got to have the population somewhat close so that you could have it that way. You know? So that's why I think I like the state system. I mean, right now, as a person who's campaigning, I would go to Wailuku, Kahului, because there's 18,000 votes there. But if it's state system, I will go to Molokai, LANAI, Hana, Haiku, that is my district, right? And that's all kind of a country, more country town kind of based, you know. So instead of having to do the whole county, I could focus on people more rural, which is more of my district anyways. And I think I would represent rural. I would know their issues firsthand, you know.
So in other words, it gives each one of the senatorial districts the ability to have that flavor of that district on the council as well as a reflective quality. Okay,
that's right.
Great. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much what I have. Is anyone else have any other questions? Or Bruce, go ahead.
Yeah, Gabe, what would What differentiates you from your other two running mates? Or
Okay.
what is it about you that's special and makes you more qualified to run for this seat than the others?
I think it takes a lot of guts to run against an incumbent council member who's been in power since statehood. Let's be real, since statehood. It's now that Councilmember Okama is retiring, or I mean, he has to take 2 years break. Then my opponents want to challenge him. I think that shows my tenacity. It shows the guts that I got to go against a guy who's been in power for so long. It's not just, oh, now there's an opening, let me get in. So I think that shows a little bit more strength. And the other thing is I'll compare my my time on the commissions. I was the county commissioner on Americans with Disabilities Act, trying to get handicap parking stalls for our seniors, doing things for people who with disabilities, whereas my other opponents were doing other things for other people. I'm trying to get things done for people in need. You know, that's a big difference between me and my opponents.
Thank you. And what type of campaign do you plan to be running as far as your funding and how you're going to run your campaign, especially in this COVID world?
Right. In this COVID world, it has to be more of a burst campaign in that way, and which is perfect timing for you guys to come and, you know, call me up because, you know, I probably have about a month and then I got to push everything out because because of the way COVID worked out, I don't really have time to go door to door like I wanted to. So it's just, as soon as they let me out the gate, I'm going to go as hard as I can, you know, no rest, you know, for the weary. I just keep going and go door to door if everyone allows me to, as far as the governor and his laws and, you know, the mayor, and they all allow us to do things like that. I would love to do a fundraiser, you know, in July if it's okay. So you just have to wait until the green light says go, and then you go as fast as you can.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Gabe, in this kind of post-pandemic reality, we had our governor look at the possibility of mandatory vaccines for adults and children. What are your thoughts on that declaration that he made?
So mandatory vaccines, I think that that's tricky, and I think that as long as the science backs it, I'm for it. And that's the debate: is the science backing it? Then it's okay. If it's not, if the science isn't backing it, and then we can have that debate. But I think that I'm a science guy, and my daughter is immune suppressed, so she didn't have the luxury to be able to take all of the immune shots because because of her condition. So I think that as long as the science says it's okay, then it's okay for me.
Thank you, Gabe. And Sylvia, you had a question? Did you raise your hand?
Yeah, Gabe. I wonder if we have time to get a little deeper into this. There was an issue with the corporation council where the Maui County Council got into, it seems, a power struggle, and the lawyers who were there supposed to support them were kind of working against them or on the other side. Yeah. How do you perceive what happened, and is there any hope for this charter amendment? How would you go forward with that?
Well, I think when you have appointed members, that appointed lawyers, then that could lead to a problem, right? So why don't we have a corporate, or a city manager? They'll do the hiring. Human resources does the hiring. We don't like what's the word? Patronage, I think is what it's called when you appoint someone. Patronage is that's an old system that's been in our government that has led to corruption time in, time out. I don't like the idea of having people appointed that are in power because who do you work for? You work for the person who appointed you, right? So that's the concern that I would have. And the way we do that is with the charter arrangement, right? And the idea of having a city manager.
Thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense to me, actually. And I just, I like it that you are an organic farmer and you would know how the best way would be to support farmers. Maybe we are already touched on this, but is there anything more that you'd like to say about the best way to support local farmers and promote security?
Farmers are simple in their needs. They need land, they need water, and they need a little bit of capital. And that's it. That's it. You got that fire in your belly when you want to farm for people, then go for it. So the county can play a role in all three of those. They can help you with the land through agricultural parks, and I support the one in Kula, and I think it would be important to have them in all districts, right? What grows in Kula might not grow well in Lahaina. What grows in Kula might not grow well in Hana, whatever district. So more agricultural parks should be in the county's purview. I agree with that. Land, water, and so again, we went through the idea of water, that if the county owned the water, then certainly they would prioritize farmer, give them a farmer agricultural rate, that would be great for us. And then the last thing is capital. I like the idea, and this might go in if you ask me about affordable housing, but I like the idea of the county giving grants to our credit unions instead of the banks. The farmer could go to his or her local credit union and get a grant or money backed by the county to help us, with buying a tractor or whatever we need, because that's when you keep the money 100% in your local economy. Because if I ask a mainland bank or a company the local banks that's tied to the mainland banks, they're doing mainland bank stuff. Our little credit unions are the backbone, and it's really what we want anyways. You want your federal credit unions, your local credit unions to be helping out local businesses. It's just that simple. So I think there is a lane for the county council to help with farmers and expand our organic farming communities.
Yeah, thank you for answering so specifically about that. It's nice to hear that there are some programs that could be implemented. Are there other questions that you really enjoy answering and you wish people would ask more often because you really have a lot of passion for a certain topic?
Would you like to question? I love these questions. I don't know. You go ahead and ask me you're asking me what question I would like to be asked. Ask me about my platform. Right. My platform is helping out working folks, getting good paying jobs, living in a clean environment with a healthy economy. That comes from the idea of a blue-green alliance where you get blue collar workers involved with environmentalists, and we come together and we form a coalition. I think that green energy jobs are great, but if you tell a blue collar worker who works for MECO that you're going to now go from a union job and you're going to go work for a non-union job, putting up something like that, that is not going to sell. That will not sell to the blue collar folks. So if you tell a worker who's a union worker, hey, we're now going to switch to another job that's another union work, but it's a greener job or it's more an environmental job, they'll take that bit because they're protected, and they're making better wages, and that's how you get large groups of people together to get a people's movement.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Can I tag behind that? Hey.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Hey, Gabe.
Go ahead,
Daniel. Oh, hey,
okay,
Sean.
you had you were just mentioning that what the farmers need: land, water, and capital. Ag parks, land, water. County give grants to the unions. I'm curious more about what you could tell us of what changes to an infrastructure that you might have in mind. Now, great, granted, in this COVID situation, we have less ships coming in, less supplies. Yeah. We obviously have to look for ways to take care of people in these times. So what would what could we look for as infrastructure to support the farmers and to support more ag or sustainability?
Well, it's like a twofer, right? It's like a twofer answer to your question.
Okay.
So right now here in LANAI, we have the sewer plant providing some of the gray water. You know what gray water is? They clean a little bit and then they, use it for ag reasons. So I think that the whole injection well shouldn't be, hey, let's clean the water and then put it into the ground and we're good. The water's so clean. No, fresh water shouldn't be going in the ground because it leaks out onto the reef. And fresh water is terrible for the reef. It kills the coral. So you take some of that gray water and the infrastructure that you mentioned, you wanted to hear about. The infrastructure we could build infrastructure that takes the sewer water, cleans it a little bit, and then you water farms or something that, some agricultural parts. That's a specific thing for you.
Okay, and what let's see, more on the farmers in general, because right now we have an issue of food that is just getting tossed away, like it has no place to go. And what have you seen I mean, it might be different on Lanai, but I know that on Maui there's a lot of food that actually goes to compost rather than finding a home or a restaurant or anywhere that it could go. And what have you seen with this, or are there any insights that you have on that?
I'll be honest with you. Our farm doesn't do any kind of we take our green waste and we put it in our soil, but I don't take it out of the farm. And I know bigger farms have enough that the county could take. You could have a green recycle waste, and we'll pick it up, and then we'll make soil with it. The county can make soil with it, and you use that waste to go right back on your farm. We could do that as a county. I mean, that's totally within our purview. I think that big farms have big waste. Small farms have small waste. So the smaller your farm is, then maybe you could just keep it on your farm. But the bigger farms have room to take. We could take it and then
Gotcha.
reduce it down.
Aside from like the waste, I'm talking about food that doesn't get sold, and then
food banks.
Food. Okay.
Yeah, like a food bank. I see what you mean. Yeah, so there's some absurd thing where if the food doesn't look like, if your banana is in perfect shape, all of a sudden it's not sellable, right? You take them. That's where a nice what's the word? A nice relationship with a lot of our faith-based organizations, that are willing to take the misshapen banana or with something that won't be able to sell in the market, that you can just take it to a faith-based organization and they'll home deliver. I know they do a lot of home deliveries here for the needy on Lanai, so we could do that across the county. I mean, why couldn't we? It doesn't have to, sometimes the markets wants to have the prettiest looking fruit, but sometimes it doesn't come out that way, and you could just give it away to a faith-based organization.
Gotcha. Okay, mahalo, Gabe. I'm going to pass it to the next.
Okay.
Gabe, I just have a quick question. You mentioned that you've had, some participation and involvement in the county council, and I'm wondering if you could just elaborate a little bit more, if you work for specific council members, if you work on specific projects,
right.
And what experience is what we're looking
at. I have a degree in writing, and I'm a bit of an editor. I got some skills at editing and stuff, so I do a lot of proofreading for Councilmember Keani Rollins Fernandez. That the budget, there's so much work to be done. So I work in her office, and I do a lot of editing and proofreading in that regard. It's kind of nice to use those skills again, because a lot of times, I mean, you guys know when you watch the council meetings, a lot of times it's over one word, shall or will. It's just this really detailed kind of technical writing that they have to get right when they write a bill. So that exposed me to the cogs and machine, the gears of how this whole council runs. It's kind of a fascinating thing to see the nuts and bolts of it all.
Great. So you've had that exposure, yes. And certainly you'll be able to take that knowledge then if you are
yes.
elected.
That's right.
Bruce, do you have a question?
Gabe, what is your solution, two-part question, for the affordable housing issue we have on Maui and the other islands,
Sure.
and also for the homeless or shelterless population?
Okay, sure. You're right, it is a two-part question. I think it kind of, my affordable housing plan does tie in the back to what we were talking about, how federal credit unions. So I think that a big part of it is people look at home as like an equity grower, and I can put my kids through college through my a loan on my home, that kind of thing. But when we talk about affordable homes, I believe firmly in land trusts and working with nonprofits. That's a really important point, that you have Habitat for Humanity do one of these housing blitzes. If you don't know what a housing blitz is, you can Google it. It's fascinating. Habitat for Humanity gets together with the big box stores like Lowe's and Home Depot, and they build 100 homes in like 6 months, a real short time. And they do it across the nation. And they're very experienced people in running them. And I believe in that idea. What's the other one that does it? AmeriCorps. AmeriCorps does a lot of home building. And these are nonprofits. We often go to the profit making builders and say, can you make less money and build affordable homes? That just doesn't work. You have to look at nonprofits to help you build affordable homes. And then also you cut the price of the home in half by having it on a land trust, because half of your value is your house and the other half is your land. So if the land trust stays in a land trust, and all of a sudden your house is 50% off, that's truly affordable. Okay, so that's one more point of that is that we to have the money or a down payment for a home is astronomical in our when we're living check to check. So if we worked again with the federal credit unions that all of the 9 districts have, every island has a credit union on it. Molokai, LANAI both have federal credit unions, and then we could have the county support credit unions to give out mortgages, because they already have a mortgage plan for them, but to have that, with working with them would help first-time buyers. So there's the affordable housing plan that I have that I stand strong with. But as far as homelessness and houselessness, a totally different beast. And I think there's so many factors into it. In the worst case scenario, many of us residents could imagine ourselves being homeless within 6 months of bad events happening in our life, and all of a sudden we could imagine ourselves being homeless. It could happen to many of us. And it's tragic that way, but there are homeless people who were one day working, they got fired, they couldn't pay their rent, they're living in their car. And then we can help them with that. The other thing is there's some people who are struggling with mental illness. There's some people struggling with drug addiction. So when you have the idea of homelessness, there's many variables in that population. And we got to come to that with a caring heart. We got to have an empathy, and we can't look at it like, I see a lot of people, especially people look down on that, and I don't like that. I think homeless people are people, they're human beings, and society's judged on how you treat the people that are in need, and they're in need. So I believe in helping out with social programs, faith-based organizations, and raising the cost of wage. The affordable housing would help the guy or the person who lost their job and all of a sudden is living in their car. Those are all factors of this big complex issue.
Thank you for a well thought through answer. I see you've been working on that one. And from that, I'll pass it to the next.
All right. So Gabe, I do have a question for you.
Sure.
Some counties on the mainland have passed ordinances stating corporations outside of their county cannot donate money to the county council and the mayoral candidates for office. Non-local corporations are not allowed to donate or promote or defeat any initiative, referendum, or recall election within the jurisdiction of the county. Would you work to pass this type of legislation for the county of Maui? Local corporations defined as those whose majority of employees and stockholders, if any, have a residence in Maui County, whose headquarters are in Maui County and are not owned by another corporation.
Would I support that? Is that
Yep.
your question? Yeah, I would
Mhm.
support it. I believe money in politics is a huge problem. I'm a member of Wolfpack. You should check out Wolfpack. It's a really important organization out there that's trying to get money out of politics. It's a national organization. But I think that the thumb on our elections has been out of state interests, and big money corporations. So look what happened. Look what has happened, and because of that, it's so obvious to say that a lot of our problems comes from money in politics. So I'm for that, definitely.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, we've got about 5 minutes before everything wraps up. I would like to ask everyone, once we're offline, to stay with the group where we can talk afterwards. And Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you from here.
Great. Thank you, Sean. Gabe,
Yes.
in terms of any final statements that you'd like to make to our listeners, if you could provide some information about how they can get to know more about your campaign, and also if they're interested in supporting you with donations, how could they go about doing that?
Yes. So I was really proud in my 2018 election, the amount of donations I got that were small donations. So you can donate to me on my website. It's gabeforcouncil.com, the number 4, gabeforcouncil.com. Yeah, I take PayPal. I have a website. It has a lot of my policies up there. And I that was really humbling to get all these small dollar donations, because I think that meant if they liked what I had to say, my policies rang true for them, and they're going to give me $20 or whatever, $5, whatever they want. It made a difference to me. It gave me a little gas in the engine, as they say. If I felt like, I was people were hearing me and they supported me and they voted for me. So I just really need more of that. So if you can, whatever it takes, I know times are tight, especially now. It's www.gabeforprogress.com. I remember that. And so the closing remarks is this is my 3rd time I ran for the seat, and what motivates me, it's just simply my daughter and her future and the future of our keiki on these islands. We have been struggling, specifically on LANAI, but across the county, across the state, the old idea of the brain drain. The young up-and-comers know that it's really hard to make a living here, so they leave. And all of a sudden you have these young leaders leaving the island. They're going to college on the mainland and they're never coming back, or they go to try to make it someplace else because they know it's just too hard here. How many of us have friends, family living in Las Vegas right now? It's amazing that's what's happening. So that is my motivation, is to say, if you're born and raised here, stay, and let's make it a good place for you and your children, your generations, and your family, your lineage. We want to stop the brain drain by having a healthy economy and having people in your council that care about you, that don't care about the big power structures that aren't even in this country, let alone this state. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm a family man. I'm a single father. And I will fight for the common folk of these islands. So mahalo for your time. Thank you all. I appreciate it.